the social media traffic on what's happening or what may happen with the park. And I typically don't prepare remarks, but because we're dealing with such a sensitive subject, I wanted to make sure that I said everything I wanted to say. So with that being said, I'm not looking at you, but I usually shoot from the hip. And as a lot of you know that I do that. So I've prepared remarks for this evening. So I want to say, take a few moments to address the state of West Virginia's reported intentions regarding former Barboursville school property located within Barboursville Park. First, I want to be absolutely clear about one thing. The Village of Barboursville fully supports efforts to help troubled youth. We recognize that many young people face significant challenges, and we appreciate the difficult work performed by agencies, educators, counselors, and caregivers who dedicate themselves to helping those individuals succeed. Our position has never been whether or not these services should exist, but our position is about where those services should be located. Barboursville Park today is not the same park that it was decades ago when the original facility was established. Over the years, our community has invested millions of dollars in transforming this park into one of West Virginia's premier recreational destinations. Every year, thousands of people visit our park. Families gather for birthday parties, football, reunions, children compete in baseball, softball, adults in disc golf tournaments. Visitors utilize our shelters, our trails, our playgrounds, and the other recreational facilities offered within this park. Local business benefits from the tourism dollars and economic activity generated by these organizations. The park has become a tremendous source of pride for our community and an important economic asset for the entire region. As mayor, I have a responsibility to protect that investment and to ensure the park remains a safe, welcoming, family-oriented destination for future generations. I would also be remiss if I did not express my disappointment in the process that's brought us to this point. The village has sent multiple pieces of correspondence seeking information and requesting dialogue regarding the future of this property. Given that this facility sits in the middle of our municipal park, we believe local officials deserved an opportunity to have meaningful discussions with state decision makers and a seat at the table moving forward. We're not asking for special treatment. We're simply asking for a seat at that table when decisions are directly affecting the community that we all live in. At the same time, I want residents to know that the village is approaching this issue constructively. We're not seeking to eliminate services for troubled youth. In fact, we believe those services are important and very necessary. What we're saying is that there are locations better suited for a residential juvenile facility than the center of one of the busiest municipal parks in the state of West Virginia. A facility serving these juveniles with significant behavioral needs should be located closer to hospitals, behavioral health providers, emergency medical services, and other support resources that can better serve both residents and the staff responsible for their care. In a few minutes, we'll open up for questions to talk about statistics that our law enforcement officers have had to deal with this very location. But I will say the village stands ready to assist the state in identifying alternative locations that better meets those needs. At the same time, we will continue to advocate as a city strongly for the future of Barboursville Park. We will continue to listen to our residents, support our park users, and protect substantial investments made by our taxpayers and pursue opportunities for future growth, including those expanded recreational amenities and economic development projects that benefit the entire community. This issue is bigger than a building. It's about the future direction of one of the most important public assets in our region, and more importantly in Barboursville. The question before us today isn't whether or not these young people deserve access to services, because they do. The question is whether the center of one of West Virginia's busiest municipal parks is the best place to provide those services, and based on many factors, we believe the answer is no. I remain hopeful that meaningful dialogue can still occur and a collaborative solution can be found. However, most importantly, I want our residents to know that the village will be unwavering in its commitment to protecting the long-term interest of Barboursville Park and the village of Barboursville and the people we serve. I appreciate you being here today. I'm going to open up for questions. I'm going to bring Deputy Chief State and Officer Wright to answer some of the questions that the media may have or any of you may have. We're going to open up for 5 minutes for questions, and then there are packs here for the press from every correspondence that was made by the village, as well as comments made this evening. So I'm gonna ask Chris and Wes to come up, and we'll open up for questions at this time.
So if state leaders were to move this facility somewhere else, are there any plans we're maybe making for this facility in the future?
Yeah, we had presented plans for this a long time ago. As a matter of fact, it dates back farther than January or February when the rumors started about the facility closing. I think our ultimate goal was to do something that will benefit the park. I don't want to get too involved, but we've long talked about a recreational facility, which we have on the drawing board, but this would be a complement. And I think everybody kind of knows that we'd like to make that a lodge and a place that people could stay when they come for these tournaments and things like that.
Has there been a time frame for how long that's been in the works?
Yeah, at least 5 years we've been discussing it. It became more prevalent when we found out the facility was actually closing.
I guess what a lot of people were asking was, were there any obstacles over the past few years with, like, reaching that goal, or has this just been just a discussion on this item?
I wouldn't say obstacles other than the facility was open. Their census, and I'm going to let these guys talk a little bit about that too. Their census was low, so they didn't have a lot of clientele there. So in the last, and again, I'll let you cover this, but I think in the last couple years, they only had 2 of those buildings occupied. So I'm going to turn over for those type questions to law enforcement this time. And if you guys want to speak to that, feel free.
Yes, sir. What was your question again?
So the use of the buildings, and as I was mentioning with him, talking about the time frame of what has been the obstacles for creating something like a lodge or something like that over the years.
Well, I would not be able to speak to that part of it. That's for the mayor to speak to. But as far as what I would be able to speak to was the calls for service that we've been able to have out here in the last several years, which would be more pertaining to this situation. I've been here for 30 years, and whether I've known that what goes on here, but the fact that I have responded to these calls, or the discussion of the types of calls that we come to over that 30-year period, I'm very familiar and aware of what goes on out here, but probably I can give you better numbers, or Detective Wright will give you better numbers if it's something that's happened within the last 5 years.
Absolutely. And have there been any issues over the last 5 years at this area? Is that what you're referring to when you mean calls, response to calls?
Yes, yeah, calls for service out here. We've had a variety of calls, from simple assaults to assaults using weapons, alleged sexual assaults, escapes, runaways, whatever term that you want to use for that. Several of those, which not only puts the offending juveniles in danger, it puts the officers in danger, and not to mention the people that are using this facility in danger.
And what do you have, like, an estimate of what the negative impacts would be? I know you mentioned you have had some escapes in the past, situations like that, and possibly some safety hazards along with that. If there were to be an at-risk facility put here, what do you think the negative impacts, like the major negative impacts, would be?
Well, the major one is public safety. I think that this park, if you name a sport, this park usually facilitates it for the youth. There's constantly people coming in and out here, families, juveniles that are out here using these facilities. This city has poured an exorbitant amount of money into upgrading the infrastructure out here and turning it into one of the nicest places in the state that people want to come and frequent. And when you do that, then you have a lot of people out here that are wanting to use it. So the safety of those people is inherent to what we're trying to do. One of the things also is, if you would have an escape, I think the containment perimeter would be very, very difficult. This is almost 800 acres of land, wooded land, rough terrain that we would have to cover to search for someone or contain someone. We also have a middle school and 2 elementary schools that are within walking distance that we have to be concerned about, that we're probably going to have to put on lockdown if something like that would occur. Possibly evacuation of the park. There's a lot of different things that goes into that, manpower-wise, of trying to make sure that this facility is patrolled more and more when you're having those type of offenders in this location.
I want to expand on that for just a second by what we've been told by the state about what their desire is for the facility to look like. and that is no perimeter fencing. They're not a fan of it looking like a prison. The DHHS does not like that. They don't like that look for juveniles. So that's also a concern from us, and that goes right back to what Officer Staten said about the perimeter. If you don't have perimeter fencing, you don't have a perimeter really. You've got all kinds of access to Martha Road over into the farm, 4-H Camp Road. That's what I'm trying to get. And then 56 trailheads here. They could be anywhere in a very short amount of time. And I think that also gives us an opportunity to let Officer Wright just tell about the sheer call volume a little bit.
Yeah. So like over the last 5 years, I just ran some numbers since 2020. We've had 104 police-related calls at this facility, ranging from what he went into, assaults, sexual assaults, batteries, that kind of thing. They've had a total of 171 calls. That includes EMS, fire, and that kind of thing. I've worked multiple cases out here that I've had to investigate, and in going more in depth, there were probably, I found out that there was more instances where they probably should have called us that didn't call it than they didn't call, by going through some of the records with some investigations that I did. And the sexual assaults, there's alleged sexual assaults, they're still going on at this time. And that could be between student or staff and student. So that's the type of calls that we were getting out here.
Any other questions?
I was under the belief that this being part of the Cabell County school system, when it was active, that it was considered, according to my children, the school of last chance. That if you didn't succeed here, then you ended up in the juvenile facility out by the jail. So, are they thinking to put the equivalent of the juvenile detention center that's by the jail out here? Because to me, that's even worst case scenario than what we had originally.
I can only speak to what I've heard. They've not contacted us until Saturday, and it was a very short phone call on Friday and Saturday. But allegedly, the clientele that will be here are not adolescents. They're 15 to 18-year-old juvenile boys, and their records are a little more egregious than what used to be housed here.
Exactly.
And part of what the officers, we've talked about this for about a week now, or more than that, is that I'm not a big person. An 18-year-old boy who's as big as Wes Wright, if they come out and they're on fight or flight and I'm on a trail, somebody's going to get hurt. It's a safety issue, plain and simple.
Right.
And I agree with what you're saying. Thank you for the question. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Brian.
look at the number of vehicles you've got around here. The people with their kids, moms with their kids, and the kid gets out, runs over, and smacks mom in the head, takes her car keys.
Sure.
You know, you got carjacking, not to mention.
Thanks for the comment. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
There's too
Would
much.
be an outside company running this.
It's,
Who would set the criteria for the individuals who housed here, for how they would distribute them here, what they could do here? We would have no control at all.
right. It's DHHS. It's their property. They would control
So
the parameters of the lease agreement, and of course, you know, we have some parameters that we would put in place as well if they actually would decide to locate here. It's not a done deal from what we're told. You have a question, ma'am?
Yes. Do they plan to contract their own security for the facility that would work alongside local law enforcement?
Part of what's in your press pack covers that. We're going to ask for increased security measures, including perimeter fencing and egress and ingress control. So we would ask for that if this actually does happen.
From what I've heard, it is a private company that at the moment is not even licensed to do business inside of West Virginia. And if it's a for-profit company, it behooves them to keep people instead of taking them and counseling whatever they need to do. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes shenanigans possibilities going on here that we aren't aware of, and I don't think the public is aware of this. And if I barely am on Facebook, and I would have missed your note, so I think that the village needs to make an effort to come out here. I don't care if it's flyers, whatever, and talk to all these parents that are out here playing with their children.
Hopefully this puts it out in the public. This is why we had press conference.
I don't know. I mean,
but we're doing what we can. We've been talking with them for years, and now for the last 6 months straight. Hopefully this gets us some results, at least to get us a seat at the table.
I just think, more people, if they were aware, I think would be here.
Jim, did you have a question?
Yeah, firstly, you know, you mentioned the assaults and the sexual assaults and the proximity to these schools. That is a big consideration. secondly, on the economics, you get a national tournament that comes here full of families to play soccer. Now, if something were to get out in the public somehow that this place was here with that type of individuals in it, it could affect whether or not we get that, even though you do a great job. One little bad thing can be said and it can turn into a complete disaster.
Are there any other questions at this time?
How many potential residents will be?
They've not given us a census count yet, Dwayne. I don't know that number yet. Again, we've been corresponding for 6 months or more in reality, and we just got our first phone call at 5:30 on Friday.
You can imagine, though, with it being a for-profit company, they're going to want as many butts in them beds as they can put in there.
Any other questions? If not, go ahead, Jacob.
Does the state own that property right there?
The only thing the state will own when it's all said and done is that right there. We've obtained that side of the park. We have to get the deed recorded and all that. So that footprint will be the only thing the state owns in the park. Yes.
Okay.
If there are no other questions pertaining to the issue, yes, sir.
I may have missed it.
That's okay.
What are they being held for? What would the children?
They're I can't give you specific offenses, but they are more egregious than the adolescents that were out there before.
That's all you can say.
Yeah. But again, I can say that through what we've heard through staff at the state, nothing directly from the cabinet secretary.
Do we know yet the odds of maybe the time that they're there for now is more egregious than typical, but do we know any sort of statistics on the likelihood of them reoffending?
That I can't speak to. We don't have the statistics on what they were cared for. We have the number of calls and the number of response times that we've gone out there, and these guys can speak more to that. But I couldn't speak to specifically what the numbers were by percentage of whether it was violent, whether it was sexual in nature. You probably have to ask them. And I'll tell you, the River Park Hospital was the last facility that oversaw this facility. Did you have a question,
Well,
man?
I can tell you that I worked at Bateman, and one of the people that I worked with at Bateman aged out of this program and was immediately sent to Bateman and was considered very dangerous and was in the category of assaulting and sexual assault.
Now I'll say this as the last statement, and I'm gonna let the media and you guys approach the officers and myself individually. There's a lot of variables here. There's a ton of stuff that we don't know, but what we do know is not good for Barboursville, and that's why we're talking today. So I appreciate you guys being here. If there are questions, there's press packs up here for anybody in the press for you guys as far as all the correspondence that's gone through between the village and the state. Also, copy of the comments from this evening, and statistical answers can be given by Officer Wright and Deputy Chief Staten. Thank you guys for being here.